Partner updates, so let me give that one. A couple things. We are about to announce 2 new board members for the Western Stock Show Association. And those 2 board members are Dr. Tony Frank, which I think all of you know Tony. He's the Chancellor and President of CSU. And we're about to announce Barth Witham. I don't know whether you know Barth. He is his family's longtime ranchers in Colorado, and he is a oil and gas entrepreneur also. They had lots of oil on their family ranch apparently. So we are excited to have them join the board. That will put us back to 15 total board members, which by mandate we have to be at. And we can expand to 17 though, so I think the nominating committee is considering other names. I'm not on the nominating committee, so I can't really report on that. But anyway, that is happening here in May at our annual meeting, which is May 13th. We are about finalizing on a new hire that will become what we're calling our owner's rep or / project manager for the National Western Center for our piece. So each one of the equity partners will hire someone that becomes a representative to interact with the group as far as the building of the campus. And so we've interviewed, well, I think I had 40 resumes. We interviewed 5 of them. We got it down to 2. And I'm going to take the weekend to think through the 2 candidates that we interviewed today that were the final 2. So we'll make a decision early next week. What a owner's rep / project manager does is interact with the other equity partners as the representative for our entity moving forward. So a good example is going to be that individual will need to be really working with my livestock group as we're building the livestock center in the yard so that they understand how that's supposed to come out operationally. They will not be experts in movement of livestock or yards or things like operations of a stock show. They will not be experts in that. They will be experts in facilitating getting that information and making the architects, engineers, and the rest of them understand how it needs to come together to be functional for the National Western Stock Show. CSU will have a rep, Kelly and the city has a rep, and all of them will be working together and report up through the EOC, which Drew sits on with us, and that's kind of the structure that's going to be in place. So is that too cloudy for anyone, or does anyone have any questions on that new hire that we're about to announce? Okay. And then finally, I've told you all over the course of the last 6 to 8 months, maybe even a year now, I can't remember how long, that we were purchasing the former junkyard at 51st and Bright.
Picture.
Okay, so, and I know you have the map. So right next to the post office, and as I take you back a year, remember RTD is condemning 7 acres of our land right now for the commuter rail line. So I'm losing 7 acres on our current site. And boy, we can turn those lights on back there, Kelly, if you need to also.
Yeah, they don't come on.
Are they on?
Flashlight here?
Oh, there you go.
There we go. I missed one switch.
Got it.
So Kelly can kind of point it out on the map, just so you see that. So that is an 8-acre parcel.
So EPS bus barn site right here.
Right.
Just to the north of the bus barn site.
Okay, so we closed that transaction, I guess, what day is today? Thursday? I want to say it was Thursday of last week. And it took a year to get that deal done, and there's many reasons why. The first and foremost was I had to get a deal done with RTD to get money in to actually acquire that property. Because they're condemning us through 7 acres, and we did that deal. The rest relates to the contamination that exists on that property. It is significant. In fact, the state and others have never seen a phase 3 come. We had to go through a phase 3 on that property, okay? There is methane contamination throughout that property. It's going to need to be piped. There's 3 buildings on the property. 2 of them are likely going to have to come down. So there might only be 1 still remaining in the short term here, okay? And I need that one remaining, no matter what I gotta pay for methane mitigation inside it. I need that one remaining because I gotta have a place for our mechanics to work and our buses to be worked on and those things, as the National Western Center development is about to take the Etna building, which is where I have it's where I've got all of our machine guys working, our mechanics. They're working on the equipment around here. So this building on site will replace that in the short term until Kelly and the rest of us can get a new maintenance facility built. So that might be, several years of time, multiple years of time. So we'll be using it for parking in the interim and the mechanic shop. We understand, I think Drew asked this earlier, we understand that in the neighborhood plan, that is transit-oriented development. Okay, we understand that. But that's however many years out it is, right? And instead of dealing with the marijuana business, as I told you, you would be dealing with, if we had not stepped in and bought that parcel, you'll be dealing with us on that, and we're obviously friendly partners here, okay? So that's the long and short of that property. I don't exactly know how much that mitigation is going to cost me, but I do have some estimates, and it's significant, So that is the report from my chair. Any questions on any of that? Drew, yes, sir.
So Paul, let me understand, so the National Western property, we're going through land acquisitions, so all of this land is owned by the city, is that correct?
No.
No, I'm talking about...
Are you talking about the land we currently own?
No, not the property that you just discussed, the
Yeah.
National
Everything
Western
within the
campus.
boundaries.
Yeah.
I don't own it yet.
Yes, that will be
But
so.
the eventual owner of the entire campus will be the city of
That's
Denver.
correct.
Yep.
So just,
Right.
and everybody just quickly for the boundaries. So the river forms our western edge, come down, grab the Coliseum, come across, go up Brighton Boulevard, go to Race Court, back to the river. That's
Okay.
the campus boundary.
Okay.
And that going, I should have included the DPS bus on the
And
side.
also the DPS stop.
Correct.
So that's the eventual owner is the city. So the property that you just purchased, Paul,
Mhm.
who is the owner? It is the National Western Stock Show?
It's the Western Stock Show Association,
The
yes.
WSO, the Western
Yep.
Stock Show Association will own that.
And we'll also own 58th and Franklin, which is a parcel we own today,
Just up,
which is way up there. I'm shuttle busing people from there to the site.
so just off the map.
Yeah. I think you know we own that one. We're shuttling from it now through, so.
And so I think, Paul, I did mention this at the EOC meeting, that the eventual, this is an opportunity here. We've spent $1 billion on this commuter rail, and there's, this is a transit stop that really we should get the highest and best land use out of. And by comparison, right now at 38th and Lake, we are doing a whole study of building heights that, to me, would make Donald Trump jealous. And I'm just thinking that if this is just, for this to just remain long-term as a parking lot, would be just not the best use of it. So I guess my concern is that ultimately, when this process, when you're fully built out.
Right, so a decade from now or whatever.
That we don't squander the chance for a transit-oriented community there. I understand there's cleanup issues that sound very formidable, but, would the National Western Stock Show Association, do you foresee just owning that land indefinitely, or is that, you don't know?
Well, we don't ever foresee owning any land that we've had indefinitely, right? Nor does any landowner. We're holding on to it until we understand what possible usages might be of it and what the highest and best use may be, given the campus development and so forth, Drew. So I can't tell you today that yes, we're going to hold it forever, or no, maybe redevelop it. Maybe we do the transit-oriented development 12 years, 15 years from now. maybe that we work with you and we have enough cash flow to say, hey, you want that to be retail and blah, 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 maybe we develop it and lease it out. It's possible.
But that land is not part of the current master plan.
Correct. It is not.
Exactly. So, okay, just something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the next 10 years.
Oh, for sure, and listen, we're open to that discussion, and in the short term, again, I feel fortunate that we were able to acquire it, frankly, because that could have easily fallen in the hands of people that are not friendly to this situation, and would have become a problem.
Or a use, or remained a scrapyard, or,
Right,
right, the fact that we're in a great position to land bank the land, right, have it owned by the stock show, is only valuable to all of us, right, long term, right? That it's in the hands of and control of the Stock Show Association, as opposed to someone who we can't control.
No, I don't think I have any problem with that. I'm just thinking, like, ultimately, I think we need to get the best value.
I don't think you'd find anyone in here that disagrees with that statement.
yeah, I agree with that. Okay, that's it for me. I think we got a written update from CSU, is that right, Liz? Do you want me to read this, or?
Oh, you don't have to read it, Pip. I handed it out to everyone
Okay.
so they can just review it.
So CSU has your items here.
And just a note, CSU is going to come next meeting, I believe, and talk more about the Water Resources Center and do a whole presentation. They all had to travel to Pueblo today, and so they were unable to be here. So they just wanted to do a quick update for you.
And Kelly, you are next.
Sure. So a couple of quick items, four in particular. So the Office of the National Western Center, which I'm now heading up, we were co-located on the third floor of the web building. We have now moved to the sixth floor. So the NDCC remains on the third floor. The Office of the National Western Center is moving to the sixth floor. For a short time, we'll ultimately move to the ninth floor to have more space up there in the web building. And we'll be in the web building for at least the foreseeable future. Ultimately, we will be out here on site. Just, we're a ways away from that because most of the work we need to do with all the agencies is within the web building. So we've made that move. So the core team is finally together, which has been really helpful. Related to that, I think between our last meeting, City Council approved or adopted our budget to fund the positions, which is always good. That means I'll get paid, as well as others will get paid. And then the positions that were in the NDCC, so as an example, Erica Martinez is moving over to a position in the National Western office, as well as Tricia. And then we have to backfill the positions that are remaining in the North Denver Cornerstone Collaborative. So anyway, City Council approved that budget, and that allows us then to start the process of backfilling the North Denver Cornerstone Collaborative positions. It looks like there'll be an announcement next week out of the mayor's office for my replacement as the executive director of the North Denver Cornerstone Collaborative. So that process has been, they're going through background checks and all the things they have to do as an appointee, but that announcement will happen next week. And then as part of that, many of you have seen and had Todd Winskowski, who's been my deputy for the NDCC. He's been with me from day one. He's been in planning, kind of focused on planning and operations. He helps build our budgets, as an example. So Todd will remain in that role. And then we are adding, in addition to a new executive director for the NDCC, another deputy position in the NDCC to focus in on implementation. So as we move from planning to implementation, having someone in the group that can focus on helping implement the projects, work with Public Works, work with the implementing agencies. So that's a new resource, an additional new resource in the NDCC that will also be announced as part of the new team that will run the NDCC. And then we're working on a 90-day transition plan for me to be completely out of the day-to-day stuff at the NDCC. But obviously the National Western is and will remain an NDCC project, so we'll work very closely with the NDCC team to fulfill our goals and objectives in this part of the city. And then the last is today at the Executive Oversight Committee, we talked about three our requests for proposals that we will be putting out through the National Western Center office. The first that will go out will be on project reporting. There's a lot of reporting we have to do because of all the different sources of funding, local, state, and then ultimately there'll probably be some federal money in this project. So we're going to go out for bids for an entity that would do all the reporting that we have to do. As an example, we already have to start our reporting with the state of Colorado under the Regional Tourism Act application. That reporting will take place for 30 years, for each year that we collect the money from the state. So we have a 30-year obligation to the state to report on the flow of those funds in and the flow of those funds out to support the specific things the state is paying for on this project. So we will put out an RFP for the reporting on the project. There'll be an extension of our project team. And then the second RFP that we will put out is what we call program and project management. And what we'll do is we'll come back at the May meeting and walk through that in a little more detail. But that group will really be an extension of our core city team and help us manage the strategic implementation of this very large project. So that will be all the big firms will probably go after that. But that RFP will go out sometime this summer. And the goal is to have that team on board kind of late summer, and then we'll spend the balance of the year working with that team, integrating them into our team, and then really thinking about, what are those critical project decisions we need to make over the next 12, 24, 36 months to actually execute this project in the most efficient and effective manner. And then the last RFP that will go out this year is what we're calling the Campus Placemaking Framework Plan, and that has 3 parts. The first part is program refinement for the 3 Regional Tourism Act facilities, which are the yards, the Livestock Center, and Equestrian Center. Those 3 buildings really are intended to bring the most new visitors to the site, so we need to start working through the details of that programming for those 3 buildings. So that's part 1 of that campus placemaking plan. The second is, and you've heard us use this expression before, the public realm study, which really is about designing the spaces between the buildings. How do you make it a pedestrian-friendly, visitor-friendly place? Really brings the site to life. And then the third component of that campus placemaking RFP will be around design standards or guidelines for the vertical buildings. So giving guidance to the architectural teams that will ultimately bid on the work with materials, articulations, those sorts of things, without being too prescriptive, but giving them some guidance about the expectations to make sure that the buildings look like they belong here, right, and that you're blending old and new. So that will be once we release that again, which will be probably sometime midsummer, mid to late summer, get that team on board. That'll be a 9-month process that we go through. So very similar to what we did with the original master plan. So that group will come back to the CAC on a frequent basis, reporting out, getting feedback, kind of engaging this team and others about the work they're doing. And then so roughly a year from now, a little more than a year from now, we'll have all the documents, basically building documents we need so that we can start to go out to bid for both the road construction, the horizontal construction, as well as, if we're in a place where we can start to do the first vertical construction, we'll have all the appropriate guidelines in place to do that. So this year is a really big year for this project to get the core team in place, and then ultimately the core planning documents we need in place to help us advance this project to a construction phase. Yes, sir.
Kelly, in terms of the community interests and the integration of what happens in Globeville, Elyria, Swansea, and the connectivity, I don't see it in those 3, and I think if the architectural team is getting on board and the team that works on how the connectivity of buildings and all of that, it seems that we should be simultaneously considering the needs and the integration of the community needs. I mean, we spent a good deal of time working on a list, everything from trails for horses to where possible uses could be. And seems to me that somewhere in this process in the next year, we need to include that.
So a great question, and I'll probably get to this when I talk a little more about the memo, the updated memo that you guys asked me to update specific to improvements that we've committed to around connectivity in particular. But Mickey, a big part of this exercise will be taking that list, and that's one of many things you guys provided to us, but taking the list and starting to talk about those community interests, talking about the kind of the outward-facing feel of the campus back to the two adjoining neighborhoods. So that will very much be a part of that process.
It just seems as if there should be more integration in terms of the community. I mean,
I don't know what you mean.
What I'm concerned about is that we don't set the table and say, this is what National Western is doing. How is the community, Globeville, Elyria, Swansea, going to fit into that plan? I mean, it just seems like we should be at least part of what the architects are looking at. And I realize there's, as you've said many times, there's not funding for that particular purpose, but it just seems to me to separate the two out and not, as you talk about these three prongs, not to say that somewhere in the scope that you're defining for the architects or the designing or the programming, it should not specifically include the community and ask for us to participate in some way.
Okay. So, no, point taken. When we actually have a scope we can put in front of you that you can react to, you'll tell me whether that hits the mark or not.
Okay,
Is that fair enough?
that's fair enough.
Okay. Yes.
On the reporting aspect of this, where does DURA, Denver Urban Renewal Authority, fall in there? Because aren't they the recipient agency?
Yeah, so the question about the Denver Urban Renewal Authority, so their role in this is specific to the Regional Tourism Act application. So they will actually receive the money from the state. They are the receiver of those funds. So there will be an agreement between the state of Colorado and DURA so that DURA can receive those funds. Then there will be an agreement between DURA and the city for us to expend those funds.
And what is the entity that is supplemental to that the request, the RFP is for?
So DURA will have its own reporting to the state, but we will have an obligation under our reporting, since we are receiving those monies, to also report
Oh,
out.
so that's on the city side?
Correct.
Okay.
But as an example, what we've talked about with CSU is, look, there's going to be a lot of reporting that has to be done. So having a base kind of reporting document as these funds go in, whether it's federal reporting or state reporting or city reporting, is having a document that's flexible enough, a reporting document where maybe there's a base reporting document with attachments that allows us to use that reporting document in a broader way than just serving one agency. So we're trying to be smart about the type of reporting documents we need, but one that allows us some flexibility about the kinds of reporting we're going to have to do to this.
And are these predominantly in that big legal budget that has been approved? These funds, what aspect?
No, they are not. They are in our operating budget.
Okay. And how do you, is there a way to consolidate via territory on the website links to the RFPs and the process, or are there ways that, I mean, I know they come out, I mean, is there a way we could, in real time, be alerted and just to see those, or, you know,
Well,
I mean, there was some advanced discussion of the branding RFP, which I guess, has that been issued?
No, that has not been
That's
issued.
another one that's going to come this summer? or-
We'll see.
We'll see. Anyway, I just feel like it would be really good to be able to see this unfold. And I don't know if there's any input possibilities into the composition of the RFPs, but, you know, how does that happen?
Because of the competitive nature of those, other than the campus placemaking, which I very much need your guys' input on, the program management and the reporting will when they're ready to be issued publicly, they will get issued publicly. So you will see them just as the rest of the public
More
will.
technical.
Correct. But I very much, similar to what we did with the master planning RFP, we will bring that forward, the scoping document, and actually walk you through and get feedback. And you guys, I mean, that's an important document, and it really gets to the point Mickey made, is how does that work integrate back into the neighborhoods?
And what's your estimated time?
I'm not going to lay out a schedule. Sometime this summer.
For the first discussion of it,
I'm not going to,
Okay, that's all right.
sometime this summer. Okay, those were my updates.
Okay, looks like Drew, you, and Ann. Is Ann in here?
I'm going to do it down here because I didn't bring the
Ann,
lunch.
no?
I
Okay, Drew, so
I
EOC
just was
meeting?
not in the office today.
Oh, there she is. Hello, Ann.
So, this afternoon, the Executive Oversight Committee had held its meeting, and a lot of what we're talking about is just a review of that meeting. So I think, I'm not going to reiterate what others can do better. But I think that and what Kelly just referred to as the placemaking RFP, I think is really significant for the community, and we need to ensure our input and participation in that. So, and Kelly seemed to be totally willing to I think we have to participate in that, because the public realm is what shapes the eventual public spaces that the public enjoys. And so we need to make sure we have a role in that. And the other thing is that I think that as a group, the community, we do need to start up again our monthly meetings. Liliana, you sent out an email inviting people, and I think we really were kind of rude not responding to it. I'm sorry about that. But I think we need to get together again and work among ourselves, and that includes many of the people here. So, and it's probably my fault that I didn't push that a little farther, a little harder, and particularly look at the, what's that? So those are the major issues, I think, for us, is the work plan and some of the placemaking issues. Those are the main things from today's DOC.
Okay, let's see, who we on next? Capital Funding Alignment Subcommittee. Armando, did you guys meet yet?
Yes, we did, and we do have a new director, and I want Callie to jump in here as much as possible. It's Brandon Lendon, who's the Chief Financial Officer of the City and County of Denver. Mike probably knows him, and he's taking over Carrie's place. As you know, Carrie's moving over to the National Western Center.
No, Carrie's left the city.
Not Carrie, but correction.
That'll be news to
So we have
Carrie.
a new leader there. Basically, what transpired is a lot of the discussion that has been taking place earlier this afternoon is basically what was covered this morning. The main thing is that the bonds got issued. There's a real favorable response in that. Unless you want to get into that, Kelly, there's basically a couple of types of bonds that have been issued: tax exempt and taxable bonds. I've got a chart here. I'll pass this around so you can take a look at it.
And why, so just to give you a sense of how popular these bonds were. So we had 400 million we issued that were available, right? 200 million, which comes to this project. They had $4 billion in asks.
So did you get the rate down to 1%?
No, I wish. I wish. It was 3 points. It was low. It was, I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better environment in terms of both the acceptance of these bonds. Anyway, it was a good day for the project.
Yes, we did. We got a good interest rate, good return on that. As Kelly mentioned, we have a good account to be able to pay back those bonds. And within 30 years on those bonds, and they're amortized over 30 years. We've got the amortization schedule here. I'd like to look at that. We still have a budget shortfall of 200 million, but I think we got it down to 171 million. Let's see. We also talked about, which Kelly had mentioned earlier, about the National Western Center, on the structure, the organizational structures laid out. Mike is on here, Eric is on here, there's some vacancies that Kelly mentioned earlier. And one thing that I thought was kind of cool is that we're going after some grant money, federal, I think it's through the Federal Transportation Department. there's a grant out there, and they're concentrating on the rail yards back here. And they're trying to get some, well, they submitted a grant, I think it's trying to get 50 million, but they're hoping to get 30 million out of it, to help consolidate some of the rail back here and improve the rail yards back there, which in turn will have to stop the National Western Storage Complex. That's basically it in a nutshell. I'll pass these around.
And we will know, that grant was submitted a week or two ago, and we'll know in July or August whether we won the award.
Great. So how does it work in terms of when you begin servicing the debt and how the money is dispersed on the bonds?
So they were issuing the money into tranches. So for us, so of the 476 million and change, give or take, we issued the first 200. And the bulk of the focus of that 200 is on really two big things. One, land acquisition and rail consolidation. Those are our two critical path items. So those first dollars in get us to site control and get us to rail design. And then what's interesting about the grant he just described, it's a brand new program, is so Brendan was able to write a letter saying that the 21 million match, because we have to have a matching fund, is in the bank. So that's a great place for us to be when you go to the Fed. Some will say, well, we'll conditionally approve it or we have to get council approval. No, we have the 21 million match in the bank. That's part of that 200 million.
Right.
I think what's so unique and dynamic about this grant proposal, other than the other ones being across the country, that they're mostly focusing on rail. And what's unique about this one is that we integrate different aspects of the National Western Stock Exchange, tourism, community involvement, transportation involvement. So it's a multiple of things being integrated into that grant, which I think allows us to be more attractive to the federal government. That's all.
Sounds good, thank you. Thanks, Armando. All right, event programming, EPAS. AE, did you have an EPAS meeting?
Yeah, there was an EPAS meeting April 12th, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say that Nichols.
Ed
Ed
Nichols.
Nichols.
Apologizes, he would love to be here. I appreciate those of you that contacted me in the last month or so just to talk about what, for lack of a better word, I'm calling soft programming that can maybe activate some of the content of the educational and exploration types of things as we move toward these buildings. The EPAS subcommittee, via the facilitators and some of the city staff, activated what were called committees, are now called working groups, in several areas. And I'm going to be really brief tonight, because we've got a lot on the agenda, with the goal being to give a much more detailed presentation of possibilities, and hopefully there'll be some decision-making functions out of this meeting tonight that we can possibly, as a CAC advisory group, send some specific ideas into the EPAS for activation. There's a group for the yards, for large sponsored events, community events, which I would myself rather call community engagement continuity or something like that, including events, and we're talking about that. Public spaces, outdoor common areas, content partners, all spaces, temporary and permanent, South Platte River Park, ties to Water Resource Center, Denver Water, master calendar, coordinate with city and NWC event schedulers. So the next meeting, this is meeting every 2 months. I'm still questioning momentum relative to that frequency. I'm really hoping that we can recognize that the National Western Center, through soft programming, can advance some of the engagement. If it takes 5 to 10 years to build this out, that means another generation of constituents in the neighborhoods that could really benefit from the content of this thrust is not as dynamically served as I think we have the potential. I am absolutely down with Lillian and I convened the first CAC representative meeting. We do want to continue this, and I'm hoping that the energy will be, I'm beyond, I think, doing more minutes for more groups. We're still struggling with that, but we had tried to do it in April. Yeah, we do need to get that going. I agree with Drew. for creative purposes. The next meeting, Gretchen sent out some nice notes regarding that the working groups are proposed to provide focused discussion and direction for activation of re-envisioning National Western Center campus, et cetera. And the working groups, and I really do appreciate people's feedback, and there are some ideas shaping up. Can we activate things like the, and again, we'll come back with some program ideas, event ideas. And I actually think I'll just leave it at that. If you just think in terms of what could happen if we realize the content of what we have now, when you read through the National Western Center master plan in areas of agriculture, are there things we can do that can help the constituents in the neighborhoods through the schools and some of the direct family involvement, learn about things like, yard farms and things that could take 2 to 3 years, 4 years to become productive. I'm an advocate of trying to keep the soil health testing program active so that we can have an NWC brand relationship with the continuum of education CSU is setting a precedent with relative to helping incubate small businesses and stuff like that. So this is all real sketchy, but the EPAS also has as its prime directive to do the big compliance with what it is to have a programming relationship with the National Western Center, with the large tenants, vendors, big events, and that's really important work. I'm a less institutional person and a more grassroots person, really. I don't think we need anything more than an attempt to really come up with a real dynamic start to what the content lines of inquiry and exploration are. So I'm looking for some creative stuff there and go from that. So if anybody has any questions, that's great. And we'll do a more comprehensive report with some details next time.
Any questions for AE? That was good, that group got started. I like it.
Sure.
How about, okay,
One,
so
pick one.
organizational
Pick
issues,
one.
Liz, are you?
Yeah,
I know you're passing
I'll
around
do this.
something here to continue this
So
conversation.
I'm going to quickly do a couple of things. The first thing, we're passing around the roster. I would like everybody to look at their information on the roster. If it is incorrect, please fix it and then pass it back around. And I'm going to really try to get this roster right. AE had mentioned a correction to me the last time, and I forgot to make it. I know we had another phone number that was wrong. Yes?
I'd suggest you make one sheet, the correction sheet, and have people write on all that. Instead of,
well-
or because people might want to keep it to have the content.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm gonna pass out an updated one. So I just, if they can just,
Okay, well,
yeah.
if anybody needs it tonight, maybe they can get an extra.
Here, you
Yeah,
can use
that's
mine.
Yeah. Okay, here, I'll send a
I'll hand-
master around.
I'm sending a master around.
Great, the master's coming around.
Master, that's the word.
Okay, the next thing that I have here for you, so if you'll just check it on here, pass it that way, and we'll get it across, and it'll come back to me. Good idea. So the next thing that I have for you is 3 people gave input on the guidelines and criteria for meetings. And I talked with the facilitators, and what we'd like to do is spend 30 minutes on this document tonight. And if we don't get it done, we'll come back and spend another bit of time on it in another upcoming meeting, okay, at the next meeting. Because we do have a lot of things on the agenda. We put it at this point in the agenda because we know that it's sort of every time we get to it, there's 5 minutes left. And so we wanted to spend good, solid 30 minutes on it right now. And there's plenty of time to revisit it, so I'm going to pass this around right now. And what I did is just incorporate I incorporated input that I received via email. If I missed something, I apologize, and we'll just add it in as we go. And I noted the changes that were put forth in red, and then the person who suggested those shortly after that, the change. So you'll see when you get the document. So if it's okay with you guys, what I'd like to do is we'll take it section by section and talk about the changes that people suggested, and then entertain additional changes and come to some consensus with the document. So does that sound okay with everybody? Okay. So does everybody have it yet, or are we still getting it around the table there? And I apologize to our spectators. I don't know that I have enough copies for all of you. I did not anticipate so many additional people, and I will course correct next time. So, so the first paragraph of this, and we started to discuss it the last time, Drew had offered an amendment, which he then sent to me, and we put in, this history and purpose, I basically took from some documentation that was online, but I think you all had talked about the fact that you wanted to expand it a little bit. And so if you'll just read through the history and purpose there, and it just talks a little bit about what you think the role of this group should be. And then I'm going to ask that if people have comments, or if Drew, if you want to comment on your amendment, that would be great. Do you have anything you want to say about your amendment there in that first paragraph? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, but.
I mean, I hope it speaks for itself. I just feel that, as far as our purpose, we are here to have meaningful input on and be a major participant in the development of the proposed national listing center. I just felt we needed to say that. So,
Okay.
So
Ann?
can I just, Drew, let me ask, so the remainder of that sentence then goes on to say, of the proposed National Western Center, and provide input and feedback during the master planning process. So should we keep that last part on? Because
You're right.
master planning process is
It's over.
over.
Yep. Good point.
yeah, good point, Ann. Maybe it should be, in the development of, I think we should take out proposed.
Yes.
Put implementation in there at this point, I would suggest.
Development of the National Western Center and provide input and feedback throughout the process.
Okay.
Well, AE just said during the implementation.
Okay.
Implementation.
Throughout the implementation
Of
process?
the National Western Center master
Okay.
plan. I think that master plan is
Throughout.
Yeah, to keep it as a
Throughout the what?
implementation of the, and then you can keep the master plan language in there.
Right.
Implementation of the master plan.
National Western.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay.
I think.
All righty. How's everybody feeling about that paragraph then? Any more comments? Okay. Yep.
I just wasn't sure why, I realized measure 2C is a city measure, but the intersection of these three major funding streams to me is,
Okay.
I'm fatigued with words right now.
Right. Okay.
But I don't know that that needs to be, I mean, it would
I can't
continue.
hear you. Can you speak up?
Sure. I just feel the intersection of the three main funding streams, the RTA, the HB 14, 13, 14, whatever, the state money, the CSU, the 2C, I just kind of feel like that's a
Okay.
bit of a,
What if you said instead approved funding streams instead of being specific?
Okay.
Because obviously
more
the
historically dynamic.
1344
Yeah.
as a law says what those monies can be
Right.
spent
Right.
on.
Yeah.
2C says what those monies, so if you just said the approved funding
Yeah.
streams,
and the
With the approved funding
And the
streams.
beauty of that being that our charge is the sum of the integration, or the intersection of those resources into this project. So,
and that also is forward-looking because you're anticipating, obviously we still have a funding
More
gap.
approved funding.
We have,
Yeah.
so it anticipates future approved funding streams.
Okay. Perfect. So with the approved funding streams, the committee continues on in its advisory capacity to the Executive Oversight Committee of the National Western Center.
There's only one, and there is, well, it's in the duty. We have the purpose was, the duty wasn't just to integrate the GES neighborhood plans. The purpose of the founding of the CAC had to do with elevating the neighborhood plans with collaborative implementation with the National Western Center plan. So I don't want to overdo that, but to me, I remember the very first meeting of the CAC here at the Stock Show, and the conversation had a lot to do with the neighborhoods being paired with.
Right.
So
So you,
anyway, somebody can work on the word.
okay,
We have to
okay.
do it all together.
And do you want that in history and purpose or down in the duties?
Well, I
Is that
feel
what
like it's part of the, I feel like it is part of the
History
history
and
and purpose.
purpose.
And it can
So-
be reinforced by the duties.
Okay. So I'm just going to make a little note about,
I would say priorities, but
okay. Okay. All right, so let's go to the duties section. And there were a couple of edits. One was from Carrie, and as you might know, Carrie is now on maternity leave, so she is not here. So, and I didn't get a chance to ask her about this, but she just felt that there was a little bit of redundancy in this, and so let's just look at the duties.
What
And-
line are you talking about?
So she, on line 35 of this document, she feels like that bullet point is unnecessary because it kind of is just repeating something. So, and I didn't quite understand that, but maybe we could do the first bullet point, and then we'll go to the second one, the next one, then we'll discover if we talk about whether we have anything that we've left off. So, so the first bullet point is to provide input to the EOC regarding projects and issues related to the development of the National Western Center. Is that, how does that sound to everybody? Are we,
Well, I think picking up on what AE says, it again doesn't refer to the neighborhood.
Okay.
And it
Yep.
needs to refer to specifically to Elyria, Swansea, Globeville, or the neighborhood organizations.
you know,
Which
one-
is what three, that's what three does.
Advises regarding the needs and desires in relation to
So
yeah,
that would be the additional section, I think, that would not be redundancy.
right, because it specifically mentions the
Yeah,
neighborhoods?
maybe it needs to
Okay.
be worded a little bit
Okay.
better in terms of to not have that appearance of
Right.
redundancy, but it definitely talks about an additional aspect of melding in the neighborhood concerns.
Okay. How do you feel about the bullet about assisting in communicating elements of the National Western Center project to residents and stakeholders in the neighborhoods? Is that,
Well, shouldn't it go both ways?
yeah.
Yeah, because
Oh,
it's a representation.
and seeking input from? So you're
So-
communicating and then gathering input?
That was the loop I was talking about.
Exactly.
We spent a long, long time talking, so.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, that's,
Okay, so then we add
I
in,
think that's the first obligation.
okay,
And in connection with that, Liz? if
Yep.
I don't, I continually don't understand why the EOC is mentioned without the EPAS and even the, I always get the FAS, but
yeah,
at least, I really feel like the Events Program and Advisory Subcommittee needs a looped relationship of creative input and goal-making for implementation of programming that's beneficial to the neighborhood, the constituency as quickly as possible. And because it can also inform the whole project going forward. So
Right.
somehow in here, I feel like this whole idea of a loop of, you know, and that I definitely only consider myself a placeholder for a lot of people that aren't at this table that we need to do outreach and engage, and so somehow in there. to
So
elevate
what
that.
if, so can I make a suggestion?
sure.
So what if you were to say, provides, so I'm going back to bullet one, provides input to the Executive Oversight Committee, and its two subcommittees, and we could put in parentheses what those are,
Right.
Or
right?
just say, and it's
And its related subcommittees,
Related subcommittees.
regarding projects and issues related to the development of the National Western Center.
Well, my preference would be for the, just for the transparency, is to put out the EOC and subcommittees, EPAS.
So what if they
and
cease to exist?
And well, then we change it.
So why not just say, and its associated
So,
subcommittees?
what if the EOC ceases to exist?
Well, it will at some time.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, I'm an advocate when it's simplicity in this case, because, again, there's so much minutia here, but I feel like because we're in such a formative state, and we're trying to educate constituents that we talked about here about what this interim structure is and how it works and where the entry points are, I would request the reinforcing by putting the names of the subcommittees in there, and also add in there something relate to the development of the National Western Center and projects and issues related to the National Western, development of the National Western, well, I'm going to stop that. I want to somehow reinforce the
I just,
Yeah.
and this is a
I just
discussion.
offered a friendly
Right, and
approach.
this is a discussion, so that's my comeback, Kelly, and I appreciate
Okay.
it. I'm just requesting that we think, because people that come into as the membership changes or grows, or as we try and engage more people on projects, to be able to put something in front of them and it gives a reference. If it was 13 sentences, I'd have second thoughts about it, but it's 2 references showing the structure we're all trying to learn as novices out here.
How about if I like name them in this first bullet or somehow at the beginning, and then, so that we don't have to restate it in every piece going through it, and say the
Well, the reality is,
executive
once you
oversight
state them up
committees.
here, you only
Yeah.
have to list the
Okay. Well,
acronym.
so, point taken, and let me just try to,
That's some word.
yep,
Because the same holds true with whether you put a specific
Right.
person's name in as a contact person.
I would
Right.
not suggest that.
Those, I mean,
Yeah.
I understand those sorts of
Yeah.
things,
okay, so, and committees, got it.
I would avoid keep putting names in there, because names are
but
going
I
to
know,
rotate in
because
and out.
we're coming to
You
that.
can have a roster.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the roster can evolve. And
Yep. Okay, so if you go on to, we'll go on to the second page, so it's the back of that first page. So another bullet is identifies potential concerns and helps find workable solutions that address the needs of the community at large. Is that a relevant statement? Is it not relevant? Would you like to change it?
Can I add a friendly amendment?
Yep.
Could you say identifies potential opportunities and concerns?
Sure. I think that's great.
Okay. Anybody else have input on that section?
That's a
We
very,
say potential concerns and
I said just add opportunities.
identifies potential concerns and what else?
Well, opportunities. So there may be things that are going on in the neighborhoods that you guys are working on or that we're not necessarily aware of, and you need, I mean, if it's relevant to the project. So I use an example, I'm going to use the gals that do the tamales. I mean, that's just one thing. A commercial kitchen, that's come up, right? So there's an opportunity to grow those businesses if we had a commercial kitchen on the site, right?
I like that. Add and opportunity.
Right.
And that, again, is getting to the, not just you pushing information out as a committee, but finding the potential and being proactive, right?
You probably want to put opportunities, like you had said, first.
Right,
just
yep.
because you always want
Opportunities
to
and-
put positive out there
Exactly,
first,
yep,
yeah.
yep,
But concerns is valid.
yep. Okay, ensures transparency and communication between the partners, the city, and the surrounding neighborhoods.
partners,
Yep.
I just have an issue with
Oh,
insurers.
okay, yep,
That
you're
it's
right.
our responsibility to check, but we're not
Okay,
necessarily-
yeah, what's the word? That's a good point.
Ensure
advocates for.
Support?
But we'll let you know if it's not happening.
Right, yeah, right.
I think supports is a good word.
Support transparency?
I would say support transparent
I would go so far
communication.
as to say advocates for. and
Advocate for?
support.
Is that?
But I don't think that it takes away some of the action of us doing it, so I would say something like promotes transparency and communication or something that is more active.
Yeah.
Promotes, that's a good.
Promotes?
Yeah.
That's a good word. Okay,
Support plus advocate equals promote.
there we go.
I'm
Excellent.
down with that recipe.
Awesome,
Or
okay.
what if you were to say, I mean, support, so what if you said support transparent communication between the partners, the city, and the surrounding neighborhood?
Or promote.
Or promote,
transparency.
yeah, promote. I like promote.
I like trans.
Huh?
What did you say, Drew?
Supports and promotes.
I-
Promotes
But you just deal
transparency.
with one.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I think promotes is a more
Promotes is-
positive term.
okay,
I like,
That to me seems like you're promoting the word that comes to mind when you say it that way is it's about collaboration, right? That there's an active attempt to collaborate by promoting transparent communication between the parties.
well, I would hesitate to, I kind of like that wording, promote, where'd it go?
line 46, 47-ish.
I like that, promotes transparency and communication, or, yeah, the communication can be transparent, but the full workings aren't necessarily.
Yeah, transparency can be bigger than just communication.
That's right, so I would
Okay.
not want to take that depth out of it if we
Okay.
can do both. I would ask.
Is everybody okay with promotes transparency and communication, generally? Okay. And then, so we'll need to take out ensures and perhaps promote that the build-out meaningfully benefit the adjacent communities. And I don't know if you feel like we've said that, or, I mean, you talk about it a little bit, Drew.
What you want to take out?
No, I mean, do you talk a little bit about your amendment, and do you, and if,
Well, I just felt that they all were kind of a little, they were a little passive, or they weren't kind of strong enough, and I just thought
Okay.
that we should say that one of our duties is to ensure that the National Western build-out meaningfully benefits the adjacent communities in the short and long terms. So we're here to make sure it happens.
okay, so, but Liliana, are you still uncomfortable with that word? Is there another word instead of ensure, but is there something else we can do in terms of the benefiting the communities in short and long terms?
I like the dual
I
spelling.
feel if you don't have
Yeah,
the word
I know.
ensure, it kind of weakens it.
It's an E, I
I
think.
mean, we should guarantee it, we should make sure it happens, not just promote or support, we should ensure it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So-
that responsibility isn't just ours, because we can say something, but we have input, but we don't make the final decisions.
We can't guarantee it.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at, is if we say we're ensuring,
Yes.
we as this committee, we as residents,
It's a little strong.
and then it doesn't happen. Even though we've tried everything we could to
Then we failed.
do,
Then we didn't
Then,
meet our
well,
duty.
What about champion?
but there's also
Ooh, champion
other-
is another good word.
if we were the only ones.
That's our wordsmith over there.
There are things beyond our control that may not make sure it happens.
So-
What I'm trying to say is we do everything we can
Of course, yeah.
to make sure that the build-out meaningfully benefits.
So two words that have come out are champion and steward. Do either of those do it for you?
Well, how about if we say works to ensure? Because we strive to ensure this. I just don't want to weaken it and say, oh, well, we tried and
Works to ensure, and that gives you
Works to
some,
ensure.
that you keep working, and you'll work and work, right?
I mean,
Okay,
maybe we fail, hopefully not, but
okay.
I don't want to weaken
Yeah,
it.
I agree.
Looks like we got acceptance on
Okay,
works to
great.
ensure. Let's
So
move
I
it to the
would
next
change
one.
it, I would be okay if we say works to ensure.
All right.
Okay.
Are we getting nodding heads? Are we okay? All right.
Left side of the room loves.
Left side is just, yeah.
Now,
Okay.
We're good, yeah.
All
let's-
right, so let's move on to the membership piece.
Wait, no, it's got to.
Okay,
Oh,
Nola, yes.
oh, go ahead, Nola.
Now,
Go
remember,
ahead.
I was with you on the marijuana thing this week, so be kind, go.
I do thank you so much.
Okay, we were
The
there.
neighborhoods.
That was, yeah.
I just, in reference to what Liliana just said, I wasn't here at the last meeting. Is there no decision-making power of this body at all?
It's advisory.
It is an advisory committee.
And that's okay with them?
Well, see, this is an area of difficult to prove cause and effect. And so there's no, as I understand it, there's no granted authority, but the relationship of this group to our mayor's office, our executive staff, is based on how we can gather our strength and our will for the aspirations of the best participatory benefits from the statements from the neighborhoods as to how. So this is an advisory committee. And this is part of why I keep beating the drum. Let's name the committees. on this interim structure because a permanent authority will be established. And this is kind of the training grounds for the neighborhoods to understand what a permanent authority is. I don't feel like we have to have, anyway, so I think we're gaining some momentum relative
The advisory.
to.
Yeah, I think you
we're
stated that
gaining
well.
momentum.
Like, what happens if a decision is made that this committee doesn't agree with?
Well, the committee has a representative that's been put on the
As a voting
EOC by the
member.
mayor, and it's Drew. So, listen, I'm not the city, Kelly and his crew is, but I'm a participant in the neighborhood, and obviously we're the National Western Stock Show. We may not always agree on everything we're gonna do, right? But we're gonna try to come to a consensus in this group, led by Terrence and Maria, and Kelly and I'll interact, and so will others. And the best decision will be made. 100% of you will never agree 100% of the time on what that decision is. I've never seen that happen in my 30 years of management. I wish it always could. But the concerns of the neighborhood will always be heard. And decisions will be made with this group's knowledge. So I don't see this as a real problem. I think everybody has respect in this room for each other. I certainly have respect for all of you, and I know Kelly does. So at the end of the day, I think we're just going to keep working together on this, Nola. And this is an advisory group that's helping advise us as the equity partners are putting $1.2 billion in, a lot of which was voted for by the city, $125 million by us, and CSU's bringing to the table a ton of money also. So
Another way to look at it, Nola, or to the group is just, an outcome-based approach, right? Hold us accountable for the outputs, right? So as an example, you're going to get a copy of the memo that I updated based on making your feedback to be more specific about what specific investments are we committing to back to the neighborhoods. And so I've listed what those are. There's costs associated with building those roads, making those connections. Hold us accountable to deliver that, right? Hold us accountable to deliver 26% of open space. All the things that are in the adopted plans that we've committed, that's what's unique about this master plan is it's also an implementing plan. So hold us accountable for that. And those are the easier things to measure because you can touch it, right? Now the soft infrastructure, the jobs and all that stuff, those are going to take a long time, right? And they're going to evolve over time, and that's harder to measure. But for certainly the physical infrastructure, very easy to say we either did it or we didn't.
Can I ask if it would add in, if you perhaps said something like, when we just talked about accountability, is that what you're getting to, Nola? Is that accountability piece, so that if this committee sees that, that the EOC is not being accountable, then maybe you say to, use the word accountability and use the, kind of the vision or the vision statements from the neighborhood plans as a basis for accountability, something like that? Or is that just, am I taking you off on the wrong
That's going.
track?
No,
Nope?
no,
Okay,
no.
good. Right.
Well, I think that works to ensure, there are all kinds of, I don't want to use the word weapons, but opportunities to basically work to ensure that things happen. If we're not happy, you may have to go to city council and say we're very unhappy. We may have to go to the mayor. We are working to ensure that it happens, and we have lots of weapons, if you will, to basically ensure that it happens. The best one being, collaboratively working together. But if it can't work, then we have other methods, and I think we don't need to go much farther than that.
May I? Yeah, since the inception of this committee, I've pretty much been consistent in having that fine line between this committee and what goes on in the neighborhoods. And I think it's very crucial that we not stray too far. We can bend that line a little bit now and then, if we have to. But, believe it or not, some wisdom came out of the Mexican Revolution. You wouldn't think that today conditions in Mexico are, but it belongs to the people that work it. And the community is we all know the community, there's a lot of problems, and that changes. And it's got to be worked constantly, you know, as the National Westerns work their areas to make sure they have a better show next year. We got to work for the community, but that thin line, in this committee, obviously there's going to be influences. And there's a lot of impacts that we're going to have to deal with. We have not come to any real basic conflicts yet. There may be some in the future, but as long as we sit in a committee and recognize that, we can deal with it. And I believe like Paul, I think this group can deal with anything that comes up. The main thing is not to get bogged down. Nothing is definite. Nothing is for sure. But we've come a hell of a long way on what we've had to work with so far. And I think if we continue in that vein, then we won't get bogged down to where we let the overwhelming immensity of this project overwhelm the neighborhoods. That's our job, and that's our work that we have to do. That's our terreno, and we have to work it. And you know as well as I do, that's constantly changing out there. And for us to come to this table and say, that has to be done out there. We have not yet. The plans that we worked on, you know, it's a good tool, but it's not written in stone, and we can change that. We can modify it, and it's an ongoing process. You're going to have to do with the effort here. So I would say that let's not get bogged down. Let's keep it flexible, and we can change this anytime we choose to. But let's go on, because there's a lot of work ahead of us yet. And we've got a lot of work out in the neighborhoods, a lot more. Because the neighborhood plan is just a tool. It's not, we weren't dealing with Moses and 10 Commandments out there. That plan's got more holes in it than a pound of Swiss cheese. But we can live with that, and we can mend it as we go along. So let's not get bogged down.
Okay, so then, I mean, I'm feeling, not too many people have expressed, but are we okay to continue with, leave that section right now, and I'm going to bring you changes back, and then move to the next section, make a few amendments, and then, and I would ask that if you are strongly on one side or the other and want to send me something, that I can do it, okay? How do you, yeah?
Just one
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah.
When we refer to the National Western, we should probably be consistent.
Right, yep, yep.
I would just
Oh, yeah.
say, I think
That was
sounds
his
good.
addition.
Nola, I think that maybe there is something, you had a really good question. Maybe we want to add something about accountability. Liz is open to us adding something. So maybe.
Well, why don't we leave it at this? If you guys want to talk about adding an accountability piece, you can send that to me, because this document will come back to you at the next meeting with these changes.
Okay.
And then that'll be something that we could address at that meeting, so that we're not, we could spend 15 minutes trying to get the words right, but if you want to, you guys, the two of you want to work on that and then send it to me, I can put it in as a possibility, and everybody could do one more run at it. Okay, so I'm looking at the clock, because I don't want this, we're going to take about another 5 or 10 minutes, and if we don't get through all the pieces, we'll come back, we'll address the past things. There's not a whole lot of, it looks like a lot of red, but now we get to the membership piece, which I know that everybody, yep. Oh, I'm sorry, Ann.
Yeah, well, it's on the membership.
Oh, good,
so
okay.
just cut to the chase.
All right, cut to the chase, go, Ann.
When I look at this list, I'm not on it, because I'm a business interest in the GES neighborhoods.
Right.
And it just says residents, and then it says community business leaders, not, So, to me, I think it should say residents and business, or commercial owners or businesses in the neighborhood. Because I don't think I'm the only one that's owns a business in the neighborhood.
And I guess
That's
maybe that
on
was
this.
what the business leaders piece was, but it's not, doesn't
that's not
accurately
really it,
describe
yeah.
you.
I mean, and I
Okay,
think there may be some business leaders here that are not related directly to the neighborhood, but I want to be considered directly related to the neighborhood as well. That's
Okay.
always kind of bugged me. It's always just residents, but it's also business interests.
okay, so,
Business leaders and interests.
So the first one, residents of Globeville, Elyria, and Swansea neighborhoods. Now, later in the document, Rhino comes up. And we don't have any, do we have any Rhino residents?
Yes.
We have Rhino business people.
I'm a Rhino resident.
And you're a Rhino resident as well?
Tracy?
Tracy, okay, so,
Rhino Arts District.
so do we need to include, if we put residents of Globeville, Elyria, Swansea, and Rhino? Go ahead. AE?
I just, a general comment, I think we can work on this more later.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
This is kind of the other side of creating sort of an artificial limit, an artificial impression of a smaller scope of membership by selectively listing just a few names.
Okay, right.
And this was, the CAC historically was formed to assure a good relationship between the Globeville, Elyria, and Swansea neighborhood planning process and the National Western Center
Okay,
program campus. And I really think, and I'm a devout, appreciative person relative to Rhino, but I'm seeing something that I feel we need to be aware of as we also include Rhino, that I think we've got to be careful not to lose with the partnership of adjacent neighborhoods to the prime heart of the footprint, Globeville, especially Elyria and Swansea. And then also, we might be able to say I think we've got history. The MOU partners to me are expressive of the history, science, agriculture. I don't know, there's something, but I don't know how to do this, but you either list the whole roster or you don't list it, you do something thematic. I agree with Ann, there's something about vested business partners in the neighborhood that aren't quite in that scope. So maybe we could just work on this a little bit more.
Okay.
And I think we need to get a new Riverside representative.
That is correct.
So hopefully we can do that.
We have
So,
talked to the cemetery, to the Fairmont folks, and they're going to let
working
us
on
know.
it, yeah. Because that I think should be a core part of it, EPAS too, but we could, or
So-
an automatic part.
so let me just go over to this side. Do you guys feel like naming, I mean, we have the MOU partners, and we can list it as MOU partners. Then we have residents. Is it just MOU partners, residents of these neighborhoods, or how would you like me to start working on that list? Do we want to eliminate the names, Riverside Cemetery, Visit Denver, and Historic Denver, but they have interests in this? So do you want to be
Yeah, those can-
more,
Those can be both community and business leaders and community nonprofit organizations.
Okay.
It could be, those could fall within those, I think. But I think you need to include business interests in the neighborhood.
okay. And we're gonna probably stop right after this section, and then we'll come back to it. So when I bring this back, if we list membership, really the MOU partners come, but are they members of this group? Yes?
Non-voting.
They're non-voting, okay.
But I think that's actually requires some more thought.
Do you
Right.
really need all, list them? I mean,
I don't think
I
we-
just see the possibility of saying we want an advisory architect on here who may not fit into any of these categories. I mean, it's just,
We need to think.
basically, I think you need to be broad enough that we can include other groups.
Okay, so, and you could make it broad enough by saying the CAC is a diverse group that represents many interests.
Well, basically, you're already saying that from
Right.
a standpoint of you're saying includes.
Right.
So I have no problems with broadening it up there, but the language in the earlier does not say all inclusive. It just
Right.
says includes.
Right.
So even if you're missing something from the bottom list,
Right.
it doesn't mean, it means that it has many interests. So it's so many interests that we can't name them all.
Right, one of the phrases that they use, like when they're writing bills and things, is including but not limited to.
Yeah.
So if we put that in there for now, and then,
Well, we really need to think about this.
Right,
section. I
okay.
don't think we have enough time right now.
no, yep.
Yeah, I'm not certain about that. though.
So Liz, do you want us to move on and
Well, so-
come back to that point
Right.
later? I mean, 'cause
Yeah.
you don't want to.
Right, so we've
half an hour,
spent, so we've spent about 30 minutes on this, which is what
Huge
we.
progress.
Yeah, which is what we put. Are you guys happy with this process about how we're going about this? As long as we commit, I think with one or two more meetings, this will be done. And look, we've gone a long time. I went back and researched a lot of the documents. I went back into all of the files that we have, and I know that it's like we've beat this forever, but I really feel like we made some good progress. if I take those changes, you guys have this, you can send me at any point between now and the next meeting some additional pieces to throw in here or some thoughts, and I will do this. So, you know, we made it through one page, we have a couple more to go. Some of the stuff toward the end isn't as you know, we got through some of the meat of it, so, yep.
Do you have the document I sent out in June 20th, 2014 about protocols? Did you see that?
I do not, but
Okay,
if
I'll
you would
send it
forward that to me, it
Can
would be
you
great.
find some alternative to the process for feedback on agenda item to a particular name? I
Yep.
hope we can direct this more toward the National Western Center office of
Great.
some sort. And
Okay.
I'm just throwing that on the table.
That's great. Okay, yeah, shoot me that document. All right. So I'm gonna add the pieces that we talked about here tonight, and then as you have things to add to this document, send them to me, and I'll bring this document back to you at the next meeting, okay? With the goal of moving through and maybe even trying to get it done at the next meeting if we have the time, okay? The good news is, we got this much done and we didn't feel like we were all running out the door. Okay, so we'll keep working. Okay.
All right, Kelly Reed, you're up.
Okay, I'll go quick. First document going around today at Executive Oversight Committee, we got
Which
approval.
documents that we already have?
No, it's getting ready. I'm getting, it's ready. You know, I learned in teaching, you never hand things out until you talk about
People
them.
just read it.
But I'd
Right.
love to have them in
No,
advance of the
this,
meeting.
this one. So,
Yeah, this was sent out advance
yeah,
of the meeting.
the,
No, this is the MOU.
let me finish.
Yeah.
The Water Resource Center MOU was approved today, meaning I could sign it. And what it does is it brings together Colorado State University, Denver Water, and the National Western Center Executive Oversight Committee together to plan a collaborative partnership for the Water Center project. So that initially was funded by the money out of 1344 from the state. As CSU started to do more planning, Denver Water has come into that fold because they were going to do something duplicative or very similar on one of their campuses. They have now joined forces with us to create a very unique partnership between Denver Water and their research work with CSU and water. So this just kind of memorializes, this is a tool we've used with other, these non-binding MOUs. And you can read it. It tells you kind of deliberatively what the partnership is and what we've committed ourselves to. So that got signed today. It's going around. And we'll do more of these. And what's really been nice about the non-binding piece of it is it allows us to engage collectively in a process, and we can decide whether we want to be partners or not without the formality of attorneys and everybody weighing in. And ultimately, hopefully, it leads to a legal agreement. But and I'm guessing this one will. But it's been a good way to start a partnership. That's one. Two is, and I want to thank Mickey. What's going around now, or what was sent out to you already, or you've got,
This did get sent.
is you'll recall at the last meeting I went through the work plan memo. It's a new tool we're using for the National Western Center office that describes the work. And Mickey wasn't able to be here, but Mickey had sent a note saying, hey, there's not enough detail in the document about its connection to the neighborhood. So give me one of those.
Sorry.
Because I want to point these things out.
Oh, okay. Oh, here's one, Kelly. Here, Kelly, here you go. Oh, you're gonna,
So I just want to point these things out. So what I went back and did is took the things that were in the master plan that we agreed to as part of the adopted master plan for investments we're making back into the neighborhood. So we provided the specificity that you guys asked for. I'll quickly run through those just using the map. So the first was Betty Cram Drive, which connects Washington Street.
What page are you on?
The very last page, sorry. Memo.
Alignment of plan.
Yes, yep, so it starts with alignment of the National Western Center project components with the NWC-CAC portfolios, and then it starts to list it on the last page. Okay, so these are the things that we agreed as part of the adopted master plan back in the neighborhood. So first is Betty Cram Drive, connecting Washington Street through the site over to Brighton Boulevard at about 44. That's number one, which includes a new bridge we have to build across the Platte. 51st Street, connecting Washington Street through a new bridge over to the new National Western Drive. That includes a new bridge as well, so 2 new bridge connections across the plat. And then the project picks up, and I think this came up in a meeting you guys, some of you may have had with Todd, is it's the project's responsibility to acquire the land, to build that road connection, and to make those improvements all the way to Washington Street. The National Western Drive, that's a cost of the project. A new National Western Drive running north and south, so when we consolidate rail, we've got to build a new National Western Drive through the site, connects back to Franklin Street. Improve Brighton Boulevard with multimodal amenities, 44th to Race Court, improve access to the National Western Station. So we are picking up the Brighton Boulevard project from 44th, underneath the highway, up to Race Court. And we are actually in the process right now looking to try to accelerate those improvements to align with the opening of the new station. We're working with RSP on that. Next is a new 49th Street, linking Brighton Boulevard, High Street. So 49th right now does not exist from Brighton because the bus barn is here, so we punched through new 49th as part of the Brighton Boulevard improvements to make it easier to get to the station. New elevated pedestrian bike connection. So at 51st, when you come to the National Western Drive, there's going to be an elevated pedestrian bridge that goes across the site that will be open all the time and gets folks over to the new North Metro line. That's part of the project. Short line track consolidation off the South Platte. So we just went through the grant where people were working on in the feds, but we got to take the rail that's on the river, consolidate it down the center of the site so that we have gain access, because right now we can't use the river. So it opens up the river and allows us to start to heal the river. Restoration of identified historic structures on the campus, so the 1909 building is the first of many things we'll do. That designation happened here. And then the creation, a commitment to creation of an estimated 26% of open/public space on the campus. So that will emerge out of our public realm study to start to define the spaces. So that provides the specificity. And then the other question that Candy asked was how do we follow these? So each one of these things I described is a project. And as we ramp those projects up, we'll bring them back to this group and we'll walk you through schedule and selection of consultants and selection of contractors, all that stuff. And each one of these is a discrete project. You'll follow with us. Okay? Does that help?
Do infrastructure improvements like this include like smaller things like signage and stoplights?
To the extent we have to a complete street, so signage, if the stoplight's required, like we have new rail crossings, we have all that is part of the project specs. But obviously, we're talking about things that are within the boundaries of the campus, with the exception of obviously we're coming out of the boundaries of the campus for these new bridge connections to Washington Street.
Now, I know there's going to be a lot of, how does this work with Washington? 51st, 49.
Right.
So I mean,
Right, so and a great question. So as part of the work that will happen under the NWC-CAC this year, you guys are going to kick off design work for Washington Street. We will obviously work very closely with Todd and the NWC-CAC team to align ultimately where, is it exactly 51st? Right? I mean, that will be part of how do these new connections we're creating connect into Washington Street. So that we will work collaboratively with Todd and the NWC-CAC to make sure that the connections we're going to make to Washington Street fit back into the project.
so where are we going to get the money for Washington?
Well, first we got to design it. We're going to do the same thing we did on Brighton. We're going to design it. You guys are going to tell us what the right-of-way is going to be. That's going to tell us, are we doing 60, 90, or 120 feet, right? If you tell me it's 120 feet, we're not building a road, we're buying land, right? If you tell me it's, right now it's 60, right? At 60, then it's a function of there's little slivers we'd have to buy, but then we would then go through a budget process to seek the funding to build the road. Just like we did Brighton, the mayor sweeped over 47 million, 26 million of that is paying for Brighton Boulevard. We do that in a 14, 15 budget cycle. Because I have a design I can take to him and tell him what we thought it was going to cost. We'll do that here. Yep.
So question, Kelly, much of this is in either phase 1 or phase 2, right?
Almost all of it is, yeah.
Is phase 1. So just as an example, like Betty Cram Drive, that to me, like, it would have to be designed, the design of that would have to be informed by the public realm study.
Right.
So say you have a street section of Benning Creek Drive, maybe it has trees along
Yep.
the way, or
Yep.
it has pavers or something.
Yep.
So all of that has to be, go through the public realm
Correct.
study, and then it is designed.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
And then, is this going to be built, so it will be built out in phase one?
Yeah, phase 1 or 2, right? And obviously, we don't have calendar schedules yet for phases 1 or 2. Betty Cram's a little challenging in that, you know, because it ties
Not
into
personally.
right-
Not personally.
He's not being personal about you.
Sorry, no. I want to repeat that. The street, Betty Cram. Because it ties into another construction project down here,
Yeah.
and it ties into Washington Street, I mean, I may not be able to bring it all the way to the end. I mean, and Dave, I think this is to your point. I've always said publicly, my goal would be, is we get the design for Washington done, we work with the mayor and the budget cycle to get it funded, then we lump it in with the first civil package when we're building 51st and the first roadway package, because we're never going to build it cheaper, and we come and build Washington while we're building some of these other roads on the campus.
Okay. I guess where I was going is, we will be able to walk or drive Betty Cram Drive after completion of phase one. No, because you're building it, but we can't use it.
No, well, I mean, well, sections of, it's going to get built in phases.
Yeah.
Most likely. But the goal, my point of this is that we've made commitments to you guys to do certain things. That's what the request was, is to show you what are the specific things we're committed to doing that tie back to the neighborhood plans. You guys are going to be a part of, we're going to put in front of you a schedule. You're going to be able to ask me those questions as we work through it. I just don't have that information.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep.
I'd like to take a step to keep this recontextualized in the NDCC, keep this to continue being contextualized in the NDCC reinforcement of getting things happening in the neighborhoods that are also related, but not NWC projects. So we don't have to, and I just want to, this is the only unease I have about this. I appreciate that you've listed some particular things that are in the master plan that are build environment stuff for the National Western Center. And this might partly have to do with the relationship between the neighborhood plans and the National Western Center master plan. And I feel like we need an overlay, and it can't happen necessarily in this room. This is where one of those lines are that I think we have to do some of this outside of the room. I hope we can get this going with the new NDCC executive director. But part of what I really hope can happen is we can somehow leverage this process to speed up the interior benefits to the neighborhoods that are smaller than the National Western Center, whether it's the roads, the lights, there's things that can be done that can come, and the first work plans that came out of this process were generated from the neighborhood plans, the lists of things. Steve Nally was instrumental in this, the idea of having listed projects. So we can't do it here because it's too much, but I just want to put that there, that part of how we as a CAC have to be mindful is how we can help leverage the acceleration of the neighborhood plan implementation with this. And that's not your job
Well,
necessarily.
it actually is still, even though I'm
So
no
you're
longer,
related to it.
I'm related to it, and
Yeah.
I'm still in a DCC project, but the specific question you asked me to answer was specificity around the projects related to the National Western to tie back to the neighborhood plans. That's what I've delivered.
I appreciate that, when you say you, the editorial you, but
I'm not editorializing.
well, I mean, no, the editorial you means the general you, not this particular.
No, not you.
I just, that's.
Collective you.
Yeah,
Collective.
that's important, because I myself have been a consistent advocate for the question being, what is the dynamic of these other things as well as the individual projects? So I appreciate that information is there, I'm glad it's there. I
And
just
you
want
can
to
hold me
remind.
accountable when we have a schedule. Can we get it done?
Okay, I didn't hear what you said, but I'm
No, I
not
mean,
arguing with that. It was a
See,
simple.
each project, the issue gets.
I think that's the other side of the line I was referring to.
Yeah,
earlier.
and we have to have them intersecting, and that's all I'm doing. I'm not arguing, I'm just saying, let's remember, because we need to reinforce this, because that's part of what we have to advocate for, and get more specific on.
You have 20 minutes.
Okay. I have 20 minutes? I don't need 20 minutes.
So you're down to NDCC organization.
And we're not doing, I will forward, do you want to do, No,
She has a great little handout.
yeah, let's do the fast lane, because I want Barbara to, who's led this effort, to do, well, I will, on that organization chart, and this is my fault, I literally was not in the office today. The changes that you asked about showing where the CAC is in that structure, I've made those changes. I will send that document to Liz, and you guys can have it electronically, and then we can talk about it in May, but that's shown on the updated version of the, how all these pieces tie together.
Can I ask just a follow-up question on this real quick? So between Brighton and York on 48 and 49, it has 49 listed here. Does that include things like sidewalks on
Yeah, so
48 and 49? Is that
So I'm talking about money I can spend for
From
the
the-
National Western Project, so I'm going to build, which does not exist today, a 49th from here to High Street.
okay? So there'll be sidewalks on those couple blocks, but not other past that.
Correct. That I can do.
Okay, and nothing on 48.
40, not that's in our not that's in the National Western. Right. Now let me, but I think that brings up a good point. The fact that we're buying, the project is buying the DPS site. This is 48 right here. I mean, to the extent we redevelop this, now we have the same issue Paul has on this land. We have a huge methane issue that is not inexpensive to fix. That not knowing what we're going to put there yet, we know we're going to put a parking structure. That's on half of it. What the other half is, we're limited on, how much we clean it up. But let's assume we do something that activates it, then absolutely you would get new sidewalks as part of that new development. For that full block. Does that help? And that would be the cost of whatever development goes here. But the project's paying for a structure, and so that would at least take care of that. And we also have to clean it up. And right now, the range for cleanup is somewhere between $6 and $12 million. For 7 acres.
Now, isn't it mandatory to have this mandatory to do sidewalk?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're going to do complete streets. I mean, but that's, again, part of the public realm study is wide zone. So, I mean, do you want, what do you want? We're going to go through that.
I know you're not. Kelly's going to do that.
Oh,
So pass out a few handouts, and I think there should be enough for folks on the side here. So I think they're gonna
yep,
just-
I'll get them around to him. Yeah.
So just want to give you a quick update on this grant that we applied for. Armando did a great job, so I don't have too much to say about it. But so there's a opportunity that came out
I'll
through
do
the
that.
Department of Transportation, through their nationally significant highway freight program. This is a new program through the Department of Transportation that is geared toward both highway freight and rail freight projects, and it's called Fast Lane. This was announced in early March, and we had a very quick timeline where we had to make a decision of whether or not we were going to go for the money, and the application was due April 14th. So that is why you're just hearing about it now for the first time. We had 1 month to submit this. We decided to apply for the funding to help alleviate part of the funding gap at National Western. Again, we have a $200-ish million funding gap, and so we really have to find opportunities wherever we can to alleviate that. And so the purpose of the project is to upgrade the freight rail infrastructure associated with the Denver Rock Island Railroad. This is the consolidating of the line, removing the tracks off of the river, consolidating it with the center spur, improving the center spur so that we can eliminate or minimize any conflicts with pedestrians and vehicles on the site. It also includes the pedestrian bridge that will connect the riverfront to the commuter rail station. And it includes purchase of one of the Denver Rock Island maintenance facility property and relocation of that property. The total project cost is about $50 million. The local match is $20 million, and this is funding that we already have that was already dedicated to this project.
City funding?
City funding. And then the request to the federal government is $30 million. And this would fund both pre-construction activities, so things like land acquisition and design, environmental process, as well as construction dollars. We will find out if we get this grant in late July or August. It's extremely competitive nationally, so, and it's a new program, so we don't really know what to expect with this, but we feel like we put our best foot forward, and we were able to really check the box on most of their selection criteria for what the Department of Transportation is looking for, because this is a project that not only will improve freight operations and kind of increase the efficiency of moving goods, that's really kind of what the goal of the funding is, but it also will promote economic competitiveness in this region and help to make the U.S. more globally competitive, especially as it pertains to agriculture. And those are the two main funding goals for this pot of money are really that improving the efficient movement of goods, freight goods, as well as that global economic competitiveness. Anything else I'm missing?
Rock Islands.
What?
Rock Islands.
Yeah, we have support. We got a bunch of letters. Why don't you talk about the letters?
Yes, so we had really widespread support for this, which is really exciting, because both the Denver Rock Island Railroad and the BNSF Rail Line submitted letters of support, as well as both of our senators, RTD, the Greenway Foundation, National Western, the mayor, but it's really exciting, the fact that we got the railroads to show support means that hopefully from the Department of Transportation's perspective, they'll see this as a project that has very little risk, because all the main players are working together, and it's an example of the private sector, railroads coming together with the city to do something that's really good for the surrounding communities and the economy, as well as freight operations. Any questions?
Yeah. One simple question and then another bundling question.
Okay.
The idea of quiet crossings in railroads, and Arvada has been real good at this. I just want to keep throwing that on the table. I don't know if that can be part of this. You know, for future reference, there's ways to minimize that. The other thing is, and this has to do with the intersection of the lines between the interiors and neighborhoods. At East 47th in York, there's a strong and gathering movement starting from within Swansea Elementary School with parents recognizing safety and access on that crossing. And there's a concept that's been put on the table for that design regarding could we stretch the crossing and help it be part of the historical promenade kinds of things. And this is definitely creating access for the interior residents of Elyria over in that direction. There are many conceptual, logistical relationships, and that's why, anyway, I don't know how you can broaden the scope of something like this. We've got to find the resources for that. We want to speed it up. So I just want to throw that on the table because I think there is a good, solid rationale for creating improvements on the interior of the neighborhoods that respond to the neighborhood plan and create a true bundling relationship, and we can go further and faster than we have been with that. So I just want to throw that out.
That's
First,
on the quiet crossings issue.
Yeah.
We didn't get to that level of detail in the application. And
Janet, in the funding is, I guess, my question.
And I don't know the
Okay.
answer to that. I can ask our freight rail team. But yeah, so I'll get back to you about that. On the 47th in York, I agree completely. It's a huge city priority as well to get that project funded. It didn't fit well well with this particular funding opportunity because of the focus of this opportunity on local competitiveness. But there are other pots of money that we can look into from the federal government that are really more focused on safety and some opportunities focused specifically on grade separations. So in fact, I think one just came out.
We just got one today.
Just heard an
Like an
announcement
RFP?
today.
No, someone informed us of a grant that's out there specific to grade separations.
Yeah, it's another FRA grant, the Federal Railroad Administration. The thing is with that project though is we don't know what the preferred alternative is yet. And so that, we need to get that a little bit more kind of shovel ready or.
Just real quickly, here's the state of mind with that, which is, we know when the design, it becomes clear, the preferred alternative, then you start to look for money. But this is great because the other feeling is, especially within the parents groups inside the schools, let's start talking about the funding options now, get ourselves educated and not wait. Let's speed it up because there's always a gap that we can eliminate. So I think it would be great if we come to the parents group and say, you know, hey, we're not doing it now, but we're putting our ducks in a row so that we can write these grants. We want to help you understand. You know, just we talk about that outside.
I will tell you for most, and this is just a general statement about federal grants in particular, the more real the project is with all the associated kind of approvals behind it, because you're competing at a national level, the better chance you have on winning a grant. I mean, there are grade crossing separation requests, probably hundreds of them, if not thousands of them, that happen that go to the feds every year. And so I think we need more input from the neighborhoods as we work through these studies for you guys to kind of sign off on an option or options, further refine that, and then look at federal sources, because these grants take a lot of work, and we're going to need a lot of support to do them. And we want to be competitive, but if it's a conceptual idea, our chances of getting a grant like that are slim and none.
I want to be clear, I understand when I'm saying that. Specifically what I'm saying is that we learn that process as a lead up, partly by knowing that even though it's premature for us to apply, these types of things do exist, and that there is advocacy for the neighbors, we can maybe help the city and accelerate the timeline on the decision making. So anyway, it's just another little, let's not spend a bunch of time here. Yeah. Okay, we'll set that up. That's all, yeah, we can, that's all for now.
Other questions?
No, just,
Oh, okay.
I was going to make a comment, but I don't need to know.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
Okay, NDCC updates, and it was just on, this is a thank you to the neighborhoods about, obviously this last weekend was a huge first step in reconnecting this part of the city to the world, I would argue, with the opening of the A-line, 2 stations, one at 38th and Blake, and one at 40th and Colorado. Over 80,000 people, that's the estimate, rode the train in a day and a half. Blew RTD's numbers out of the water in terms of the number of people they thought were going to ride the train. 3 hour, in fact, someone was complaining that the ride to try to get back on the train out of here was 3 hours, which forced them to use other modes of transportation to get back home. But that said, it was a big win, and the two parties that won, the city sponsored and supported at 40th in Colorado, was very neighborhood centric and neighborhood based. And then the one at 30th and Blake was a big party with artists and stuff. So I think that this community really represented itself well at those parties, and started to expose folks that probably didn't know anything about these communities to what's going on in this neck of the woods. And then we'll do it all over again this fall with the opening of the Gold Line. And then we'll start, it's not too soon to start talking about the opening of the North Metro line, which will be the first station here at the National Western in 2018. That seems so far away, but the reality is it's not that far away. So it was, obviously you'll start to see a lot more activity around those stations, but I just, on behalf of the city, thank you for those of you that participated in those events, and you did yourself proud, I will tell you.
Okay, any community announcements and public comments? Public's over here. No?
Eric, good to see you. Thanks for coming tonight. An old friend.
Community announcements?
I would just start off Kelly, you had mentioned it earlier, but I'm just happy to, and this is very nice to put this out, that Historic Denver is very excited about the designation of the 1909 Stadium Arena. And, we think that's going to be a really important step forward for this whole project, and it's going to open up a lot of opportunities for that building. And for it to be a real big part of this new aspect. I want to thank you, members, for writing those comments in support of, and for Liz Adams for being there, as well as from the city with Kelly Lead and Barb Frommel for doing a lot of the work to get that designation forward. So that was about 10 days ago, and it was a unanimous vote, so that was just a very good start to the whole process.
Good. Thanks, Tom.
I want to thank you for mentioning that I watched the hearing.
Yeah.
And you did mention that even though there weren't a lot of people there from the CAC in the neighborhood, we were there. But it was late, and there was all kinds, so, but I appreciate that, because I would hate it for you guys to think.
And Councilman Brooks brought that up very specifically as well.
Yeah.
Kelly has a community announcement too, because there's an important meeting he's
So, I talked earlier about the RFPs that we're going to be issuing. So in advance of releasing those RFPs, we're hosting a design, construction, and professional service information session here on May 11th. So this is for design firms, construction firms, project management firms. It'll be from 7:30 to 9 here at the National Western and the Beef Palace. There's a Cow Palace in Cleveland. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
San Jose.
Yeah, San Jose. And there's a lot of chatter out there in the industries about what's kind of coming forward. So we did one of these last October before the election. We had almost 300 people show up. We're going to do this one in May, and we'll walk folks through with some level of detail the 3 RFPs that we know of this year, plus Brighton Boulevard, that's another one. And then we'll probably do another one of these in September, October, and talk about and preview what we think will come out in 2017, so that firms can start to get ready to participate in this process.
Those are real educational.
Yeah. So there's some copies of this back there if you want to grab it. We'll send one to Liz electronically, and she can blast that out as well.
Any other community announcements? Everybody good?
I got one.
Yes, sir, Dave.
It's not the community, but our police department, District 1, Commander Paul Hayes, ran the Boston Marathon. 26 miles, and did it in 4 hours.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's 4 hours faster than I could have done it. All right, everybody good? Yeah, one more announcement.
Yep.
May 20th, Cleric of Tepeyac has our tortillas for Tepeyac here at the National Western.
That's on the 20th? May 20th?
May 20th.
Will you send us a flyer for that?
Sure.
Send it to me and I'll get it out to everybody. Yep.
All right, everybody. Be safe.
We're
Thank
adjourned.
you.